Hello, I'm Brent, and today I'm at Cape Disappointment State Park in Washington State, and I got a couple lenses that I'm going to be trying out today. I've been here just a little bit already, doing some early morning of the North Head Lighthouse, and now that the sun is just over the horizon a little bit, going to try and zoom in on some of the waves. The tide is kind of even-steven right now. It should be cresting around noon, somewhere in there, and so the waves aren't going to be huge, but I can still zoom in pretty good. This is Canon's 200 to 400 f4, and it has the 1.4x teleconverter in it, and then I've got Sigma's 150 to 600, and so we're going to kind of put these a little bit head-to-head. Of course, this goes to 600, so you can zoom in a little further. And I certainly recognize, before we go too crazy with it, I certainly recognize these are two different classes of lenses. About 2,000, maybe slightly less for this one, and about 11,000 for that one. So definitely different classes of lenses, and I'm gonna do what I can in this shoot, in this video, to find some wildlife and the like, but I may just be focusing on wave action and stuff like that. All right, so thanks for joining me, and let's head on down the trail and get shooting. All right, so made it out here quarter mile later. And so I'm gonna start out with the Canon lens first, and then I'll switch to the Sigma lens here shortly. I'm also gonna go ahead and start with the 1.4x going on there, because I wanna be able to zoom right in on that wave action and see what I can do to capture some of that. When I'm first starting to shoot, I like to at least check my histogram on a first couple of shots, and then I can know I can just run with it. Of course, if the light is switching really drastically and quickly, I need to check it more frequently, but looking at the histogram now looks just fine. And I'm also noticing I'm kind of running in the way of this part on the tripod head. So the beautiful thing about that is I can just reverse it, and since it's so well balanced, it doesn't really matter which side that's on. And since I'm trying to track the subject, I'd rather have free movement with my hand over here. So reversing that actually makes sense for me this time. One thing I really do appreciate about this Canon lens is its zoom mechanism is internally done. So it doesn't extend the lens, and so that doesn't change the weight on this type of tripod head. So it's just almost always perfectly balanced. No matter what zoom I have it, it's just gonna be just fine, and it'll stay there. Let's go ahead and throw on the Sigma and see how that works out for us. All right, so here's the Sigma, and as I zoom, you can see that's gonna extend, and it changes the weight, like I was mentioning. Now, when I've got my hand on here all the time, it's not gonna be that big of a deal, but it is something to at least note and to think about. The differences between these lenses, and this is certainly a little bit lighter, but you have that kind of annoying factor. If you're on a ball head, it might even be worse, because once you got it nice and balanced, all of a sudden you extend that out. Ball head has might have a little more of a trouble keeping it up. You need to increase that tension. All right, let's get back to shooting. A couple of quick notes on a few things here, and that is the Sigma zoom is a little bit stiffer. When you're trying to zoom really quick to frame up a shot, the Canon is definitely a little bit superior in this. Hopefully I'll be at relatively the same kind of zoom, but I like to zoom out a little bit so I can get a feel for what's happening, and then I can zoom in on that and make it happen, get a nice tight shot of that wave. So that does it for the shoot here at North Head Lighthouse, and I'm gonna do what I can to find some other locations to shoot. So let's see where we find ourselves next. So I'm here at Cape Disappointment's North Jetty, and I'm gonna still focus on some wave action. There are some birds that I could potentially get. We'll see what happens there, but I still got the 150, 600, and then I got Canon's 200 to 400 in my backpack. You can see the waves on this side are a little more side lit. There's lots of wind. Taking the caps off them should look really good. And then on the other side of the jetty, they'll be completely backlit. So let's see what happens and take a look at some shots and see how it's going. I am really liking this angle here, at an angle of where the waves are crashing in, getting several layers of waves coming through, even a seagull out there. I'm at about a 400th of a second, tripod mounted. I should probably go ahead and bump that up a little bit just because I got some wind vibration. I'm at f7.1. I want to stop down a little bit on this lens just to take care of that vignetting that naturally happens. But I'm going to go ahead and boost myself up to 400 ISO, and that'll allow me to have a faster shutter speed. The compression I'm getting as well, it's just from that 600 millimeters, it's beautiful. So the lighting has changed and I'm looking to head on back, maybe a little bit out of this wind, but I just wanted to comment on the gimbal head versus the ball head. There's definitely a benefit to having the gimbal head. It's just way more balanced. I'm having to hold down the camera body quite a bit because when the lens is extended like this, it just wants to fall forward. And so for a long shoot especially, I'd say go for the gimbal head and you'll just have a better experience with it. All right, here at my, maybe I'll call this my regular spot. I don't know. It's where all the iconic shots are from. This is where the 600, 150-600 is going to do pretty good because I can get a little wider than the other lens. Then of course I can zoom out a little further. So I'm also probably going to be shooting my 70-300 here as well because that's going to give me some nice compositions too. But I'm getting some really awesome wave action, so I better get back to shooting. So when it's all said and done, with all these lenses I have that I'm trying out on this subject, the one I'm really appreciating the most, 70-300. It's a great range for this particular subject. I can even handhold it for the lighting that I have right now. I'm about to tripod mount it, but the big lenses are workable, but I do appreciate this one a little bit more for its focal range going out to 70 millimeters. What I'm finding is around 135, 100 to 135 being really good. Of course, I want to zoom in and get some of those details. I can still do that. Certainly not as much as with a 600, but this is a good all-around lens for this subject. That was really cool. Let's take a look really quickly on the screen here. Well, that about does it for me here at Cape Disappointment State Park, where I'm primarily looking at these two lenses, the Canon 200-400 with the one for teleextender and the Sigma 150-600 Sports. Until next time, happy shooting.